I would like to present one of the most paramount and critical topics, securing multi-cloud and hybrid cloud environments. Um, Basically, this is all about my experience or the period of time that I worked with different clients. So I'm going to talk about what are the best practices we're going to take to consider in order for us to secure the environment. So about me, you can find me on the LinkedIn. That's the QR code you can scan. About me, I've been in this IT field for over 18 years, as I mentioned, specialized in cloud architecture, security architecture, DevOps, and AI and ML. My personal hobbies, obviously, talk about the different technologies, architecture, cloud, security, automation, doing some blog writing articles, and teaching the students and mentoring the students, mentoring the people who needs the help on these technologies. Apart from that, my hobbies are hiking, blogging, coding, playing cricket. Whenever I get a chance, I used to go and play cricket with my friends. That's all about me. Okay, let's dive deep into the multi-cloud environments. So what does it multi-cloud environments would look like? Multi-cloud environments allow the organization to choose their own cloud. You're not, you have to best fit the service. Some of the services are good in AWS, some of the services are good in Google, some of the services are good in Azure. So picking the right services and the right solutions is very important for the organization. Integrate those solutions and security for those solutions. That that's the key factor. So understanding the services, understanding the layers between these services, and how you can secure these multi-cloud environments is very important. And also, you don't need to vendor lock. If you don't like this particular service or vendor is not doing good, then you can always switch to the other vendor. Here you go. My experience, most important piece to be successful and secure the environment is to understand the architecture of the systems. What is the business goal? What is the business system that you're handling it? How does the application needs to be built? And how you want it to, how is your infrastructure to be built? And how can you secure this infrastructure? And when you have one service is running another cloud, and you also have another cloud running in another service, how do you integrate that security? Talk each other? How do you maintain the standards? When it comes to the hybrid, as you see, multi-cloud utilizes multiple cloud providers to enhance service offerings and avoid vendor locking. Hybrid cloud environments, what do you mean by hybrid environment? Combines private cloud. Some organization like fintech, they don't want to buy expose those services, or they don't want to use the AWS or Google or public cloud providers. Rather, they would like to build their own private cloud to ensure that systems are secure, and they're building their own platforms. So allowing that flexibility and workloads and data management, that's the key for these organization. I think the next generation, couple of things you see that so many trends going on the edge computing, quantum computing, and also how do you ensure the security of these systems, and how you maintain this uh, um, platform hybrid environment, like building your own cloud, building your own infrastructure, making sure that you follow the security standards. And third important layer, as you can see, the flexibility and resiliency. Organizations always can adapt to changing needs and improve reliability, and leveraging diverse platforms. When I say diverse platforms, so always you do not have a single solution for every scenario. You one of the example I can talk about that. One of the students in the recent when I was presenting one of the sessions. So he asked me about, I know this service, I've used this service pretty much, and this is pretty cool service. I think this beats everything. No, that's not. Nothing cannot be it. You need to understand the business. You need to understand what exactly you're going to do with that, and then take that, how, what all things it is happening, whether this particular service can be integrated with any other service securely, and are you following the zero trust, like as you say. I'll talk about that in detail. So you should not be trusting. So as you can see, a lot of incidents happening, cyber security incidents across the organization. Protecting the data is very, very important, and securing the environment is very, very important in the industry. Alrighty, next one. What are my strategies to the customers when you want to secure your environment? Security challenges in multi-cloud and hybrid cloud environments. You need to understand the key security challenges. One of the things is complexity. How complex your systems are. Most of the systems, you see that some of them running in different, I mean, you could have the application running in different languages. Some use Java, some use .NET, some use other Python, etc., etc. They build all these services and expose these services and use those tools. And the complexity of the platforms, understanding that complexity. So increasing the complexity is always tend to be manage the environments. It's pretty challenging for any organizations to manage these environments and secure these environments because of the complexity that it provides. So any misconfigurations that leads to lot of incidents. I'm not going to talk about incidents happen. There are many incidents across the globe happened. Um, so because of the misconfigurations, and we also have seen so many outages by the cloud providers. So that's all happening because we don't maintain the standards, we don't maintain the exact real policies, and you're not protecting every single data. Okay. So data breach, as I said, data breach is more, it's toughest for any organization that the data gets breached, then you lose the credibility. So you do not want to, you have to protect the data. How do you protect the data? You can layer those data, protect those data in a different manners. So layering those data, I'm going to talk about that in detail, how you can layer and structure the data based on the classifications. So when I say classifications, you can classify the data as public. If you think that data is public, yeah, well and good. You can share the data, no issues. If you think the data is business sensitive, you always have to think about how you're going to protect the data to the business stakeholders. Apart from business stakeholders, it should not be seen by anyone. If you think that data is confidential, that means that confidential data is for that company, whichever the company it's going to be. So the confidential data, how do you going to protect those data is very keen. So I'm going to talk about that in detail. Next slide. Another one is compliance, maintaining compliance across various, I mean, this is going to be the challenging thing. So you might have seen many organizations talk about so many training, especially if you are in banking sector. You could see that you have to mandatorily complete this training to understand the compliance, whether you are following the compliance standards, etc., and all those things. Why? Because the awareness of the platform, awareness of the critical security incidents happening in the world. So you don't want to get into that. So that's the, how do you govern and regulatory policies for different organizations? How do you ensure that the compliances are met? So if you look at that, outside of the US, we have Europe. GDPS is one of those compliance. You need to maintain that, and also SCI classifications in the banking sectors. You have to follow the regulatory requirements to satisfy your environment, etc. Everything you build. Yes, so I will talk about that detail. So these are all very, very key, and the compliance are paramount. You have to maintain that. Without, if you are not more than 80% and 90% of compliance, then most of the clients not willing to take you as uh, your one of the vendor. You know, so compliance is very important. Visibility, you have everything, but you don't know whether there is an issue or incident happen. You always need to know every single action being performed by every system needs to be scanned and monitored, and your monitoring systems are developed in a way that okay, detect the solution, detect the problem. This is what I see, the somebody is trying to access the site. I think most of them are developed here. So you all know that different attacks, DDoS attacks, SQL injection attacks. How do you want to protect them from the web applications, right? So you can build a web application, firewalls, etc. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm only talking about the mechanics and the standards and the best practices that you can build to protect your entire end-to-end systems, both multi-cloud as well as hybrid. So the monitoring is very important. You need to integrate that monitoring. You can use different tools. I'm not going to talk about the tools as well. There are a bunch of tools there are people who have talked about Grafana and others, observability, Splunk, Dynatrace. There are many tools you can use it to make sure those are integrated. So what is that integrated? So you can, best thing I could say that all these assets are being tracked. So you need to have most of the scenarios that you see in the ServiceNow can be integrated with all these asset management in the cloud as well as the on-premises. So you have every single data being stored in, being tracked in ServiceNow. You can integrate that with the security platform that you choose, whatever the tool it's gonna be. Tool is not the important. The standards are the important. How you are utilizing those standards and protect your data as well. That's all about. These four are very essential to be successful, and the challenges that you see. What is effective security strategies? Anyone talk about unified security policies? Have you heard about the? Okay, I think most of them might have used AWS cloud. So have you heard about the guardrails, guard duties, SCPs, protect, and how do you track the events that are happening like CloudTrail? You can integrate those systems, etc., etc. So, uh, so creating these policies, you don't see maintaining these policies in different places always be a tedious, because you do not have unified solutions that creates the policies. What policies? Security policies. Implement. It's always be consistent to the business. What is the business that can tolerate that? I talked about the data classifications. If you think that the data is public, it doesn't mean that you're not going to secure the data, but you can allow the data to the customers and outside of the customers. And what policies you're going to implement, how you can secure it. We can talk about that in detail. There are many ways you can do it if you are in microservice architecture patterns. So there are many services that offers like Selenium and Sysdig and Tigera policies. You can implement those. I'm not going to talk about the tool sites here, but the techniques that you can use to build it. So unified security policies are key for effective security strategies. Another one is the encryption. How do you encrypt the data at rest? What do you mean by data at rest? Okay, I'm going to store the data, whether it is in database or in the disk or anywhere. So you need to encrypt the data with your customer key, whatever the technique you're going to use. Let's say AWS as an example. AWS is a service called key management service, or you can bring your own custom key that is only built by the organizations, and then you can create make sure that data is encrypted, and you create the security policies, the boundaries. security boundaries. Where does that the boundaries coming from? So you already have unified security policies for the business. So those boundaries are aligned, and also the data being encrypted at rest, encrypted in transit. Second one, encrypted in transit. Whatever the data that is being, you have the service to service communications. Make sure that the service is communicated securely using the right ciphers. There are many ciphers. People talk about different ciphers. What does it mean cipher? Like TLS, TLS 1.2, TLS 1.3. So what exactly that does is behind the scene, ensure it uses the different ciphers, cryptography, and make sure the data in the transit is always be encrypted. So you're following the best latest protocols to make sure the data communications, data at rest is clear. You know, so that is always be the case whenever you see the latest version of the ciphers or TLS 1.3 was is the default one that everybody is using it, because the hackers always think about, okay, what all things that have been secured in the systems, what do I need to do to get into those platforms if, by um, trapping those algorithms. So in the organizations, that's the reason why, so vulnerabilities, understanding the patterns, how these data is coming. So security is very important, and always have to update to the latest that is available to ensure that your data is secure. Third one is multi-factor authentication. Why I'm saying is, you might be using different systems in your platforms. You need to ensure that the data is, whatever that device that you're using or whatever the services that you're trying to connect to, you have to enable the multi-factor authentication to ensure that it's not only protecting your data, but also it ensure that the additional security measures that you are taking. So multi-factor. These are the three effective security strategies that you can adapt to maintain the security. Let's talk about, that's all about, I talk about this in detail. I can give you the scenarios. I can go more in detail based on the questions you have. But hybrid security, picking the right model. So for example, you have a systems that are running in both cloud as well as the on-prem. So you want to connect the data to the cloud to the on-prem. All the data communications should be encrypted. Then obviously you need to ensure that the integration of security tools, how these data, and then the segmentation of the data, segmentation of the policies, segmentation of the networks, and there are other layers. Like, you have to consider all of the layers: network, and then data, application, etc. So you need to ensure those are generated. I can give you an example. One of the client, the hybrid solution, they've been asked to provide a connectivity network between the AWS to the on-prem systems that are running. So I want to ensure that the end-to-end encryption in place. So you can, if you look at the AWS, you can use Transit Gateway is one of those service, and to connect to AWS to on-prem direct connect gateways. That may be enabled in direct connect gateway. You have MACsec enabled, which is a latest feature that direct connect gateway that offers. So that gives you the make sure that the transmitting of this network is secure. You can also build your own routers, Cisco routers, etc., and ensure that the data in transit and the connect peers between the services are, all of them are encrypted. So it all depends on, I'm not going to talk about the tools. It's all about whether you are trying to follow the right standards to ensure the isolation of the segmentation policies, network segmentation, network policies, and then have the firewalls implemented uh, to detect the any unauthorized access between the services from AWS to cloud, cloud to the on-prem, anything. And you need to make sure regularly audit. That is very important. Conduct regular security audits to identify identity access and vulnerabilities, ensuring the systems remain compliant. So how do you audit that? There are many tools available to automatically detect the data, but there are very, very tiny services available to prevent that from happening even before that you detect, right?
I thought you had to pay $50,000 to a third party. I thought that was a lot.
Yes, that's good. So, so third party auditors, you may that's a good question actually. So I'll tell you what, you may recruit a third party auditors, give your best um, review the whole environment, provide your feedback, constructive feedback, I would say, to ensure that the organizations can follow that. These are the problems that you see. You need to ensure that you have to abide those things to fix those problems, and then your environment will be good and audit compliance as well. So these are the strategies that works, that has been working, and there are places to enhance it as well. So these are the strategies that we need to think about it and how we can secure the hybrid environment. Here you go. Best practices for data protection and compliance. I talked about data classification. Classify the data based on the data that you classified. You ensure the data is followed, and you also have access controls, implement strict access controls and permissions to limit data access. Uh, and third one is regulatory compliance. Add to the compliance that regulatory, depending on the sector that you are in, you need to follow the standards, regulatory, SOC compliance, SCI compliance, GDPR, etc. So, IAM solution. First thing you always see, anything you integrate, identity access management. So, importance of IAM solutions are it protects the multi-cloud and hybrid environments. So, any authentication and authorization that happening, you have to see how that can be leveraged. Like you are trying to connect to the platform, is a legitimate request. How do you validate that? Okay, I authenticated, it looks good, but I need to authorize that service, whether he is authorized to perform that action, whether it's going to be get or push or post or whatever it is, if it's an web application. So, and you can even, I talked about how to protect the data, like firewalls, web application firewalls, and then the different next generation firewalls. When I say next generation firewall, it will make sure the complaints are met. You follow these standards. So IAM is one of those key. So you have to have role-based authentication enabled. Most of the security incidents happened for the past couple of years because one of the secret key has been exposed. Why do you need to maintain a secret key or an access key? If you follow the role-based RBAC, whether it is on the application side, infrastructure side, or Kubernetes or microservices, or whatever you do. So if you are creating RBAC, rollback policies, access controls, then obviously you don't need to maintain those secrets because it generates those secrets short-lived credentials, just speed of the session. Once the session is expired, then you're done. They don't even see that secrets. You don't need to expose yourselves, right? Yes, keys are done. So that sort of solution. So single sign-on is one thing. When you logged in, okay, you already logged in as a customer. So obviously you are integrated with that customer. You authenticated that pretty good, nice. Then the rollback access controls will be validated and ensure that the rollback policies are met, and you good to go. Okay, I have authenticated, I got the credentials, I can see this guy is authorized, I'm giving him short-lived dynamic credentials, then you can access the system. So that way you can protect the this is one of the technique, and this is the standard techniques most of the organizations are following, and it's working technique, right? We always have to advance the solution. I'm not talking about different tools. We have different services. We have ForgeRock, Okta, and all of them. I'm not even talking about those tools. You pick whatever it is, whether you follow these three, good to go. Talked about the last in the compliance, and the monitoring is one of those, right? So effective monitoring and response. How do you monitor the data and assessment those monitoring? And one of those monitoring is key. Incident management, incident monitoring. You have to respond to the incidents, etc. And there are many examples I gave in the previous discussion. So this is one I can share you the slide if you guys need it. And the strategies I talked about: this unified security, robust data protection, advanced IAM solutions, and learn real world case studies, safeguard cloud environments and hybrid environments. These are the key pillars that you need to think about it. And if you would like to know more about it, feel free to connect with me. I can talk about that more. Thank you all. Huh? Thank you. Hope you guys liked it.